Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we have an exciting video. We are doing an unhaul. I have a pretty good stock here. The unhaul bag of wonders is full. And I have some that aren't even in the bag. Have a good stack. So I really just need to hop on into this video because I think it could be a long one. And I'm gonna have a little counter on because I have no idea how many books I'm getting rid of. The first I'm a little iffy about, but I think I finally decided that I should commit to it because there's more books that I'd want to read instead of these, is the Killing Moon and the Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. I recently bought this duology, like real recently, so this kind of hurts. But I've seen only people not like it that I really trust their opinions. So I decided these need to go because I now have a lack of interest in reading them. I just feel bad that I literally bought them like maybe a month ago and I'm already like, I need to unhaul because I just feel like that's such a waste of my money. But I now have no interest in them and I pretty much only have this bookshelf. I have a little bit of a stash behind my door and a cubby full of books, but this is like my main bookshelf. I only have the one, so I don't actually have a lot of book space currently. So I kind of got to be a little strict on my books, and if I don't want to read these, why am I keeping them? They're her debut series, and they just get so much better, and I don't want to waste my time on bad books, essentially. And then we have Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I really recently have decided that, like, I'm pretty much done with YA. It's not like a definitive no, but I'm really heavily leaning away from it. And I bought this at a time where I was more invested in YA, and I just don't think that this is a book for me anymore. I've heard really good things about it, but again, there are just more books that I would rather read, and I've had this on my shelf for a really long time now. So if I haven't read it, and I have had no interest in reading it, why am I keeping it? We have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. Again, another book I haven't read. I bought this book during whatever-thon last year when Ro was reading it, and it was one of her most anticipated, and then she didn't really like it that much. I've literally been keeping hold of it in case I do one video that I want to do, but I just decided I need the shelf space more than that video, and I can take it out from the library if I need it. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hate this. It doesn't sound like something I'll like. I know Aaron DNF'd it. It's a chunky book and just doesn't interest me anymore. That's pretty much the reason for all of these. We have The Ice Whisperers by Helenka Stachera. Another one that I literally just recently bought. I'm gonna hold up The Hatmakers too by Tamsin Merchant because I bought these because of Middle Grade Monthly. They came way too late. Book Depository, it takes forever to get to Canada, and I ordered them both on Book Depository. They came way too freaking late. I don't think that I will necessarily enjoy them. I don't read a lot of middle grade, so I was talking to Jade about it, and I've come to the idea that if I want to read really good middle grade. I don't want to read mediocre. So I think that these are not the book for me. They're not what I will love. Like, I loved Amari and I want to read more like Amari. Even me, like, I've read the Polar Bear Explorers Club, but it's not necessarily my favorite. So I think that the fact that these didn't get as much love as I wanted them to, and I didn't make it to middle grade monthly, I just think that I'm not really going to enjoy these, and there's better middle grade for me to pick up. And these can go to, like, people who will read them, such as my cousins. We're going to do two at a time again, because we have Caravel by Stephanie Garber, and We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Fazal. I, again, fell prey to the YA. I'm going to read these. Caravel was so hyped with Stephanie Garber's new book in the same world coming out, and I caved to it. I bought it. We Hunt the Flame, I really like a desert setting, so I bought that. I now have no want to read either of these. As I said, I'd rather read adult than YA these days, and I'm saying goodbye to a lot of my YA books today. doing two at once is really working for me. We have The Only Good Indians and Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I have read Night of the Mannequins, and I had started The Only Good Indians and I DNF'd it. I didn't really like Night of the Mannequins. Stephen Graham Jones just doesn't go dark enough for me in his horror. I don't really enjoy his writing style. I think that he's just not really for me. And I'm kind of learning my horror taste better, and I just know that these aren't it. So I'm going to get rid of them so they can go to someone else who will love them. And then we have Wranglestone by Darren Charlton. This was one of my worst books of the year last year, so there's no reason for me to keep it. Didn't like it. That's literally it. Wranglestone follows a zombie apocalypse, but it's really like two people in love. It's a romance story with, I guess, a zombie apocalypse. Not my vibe. I wanted dark, gritty zombies, not fluffy romance. And then we have Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. This was one of my most anticipated for last year. I picked it up and I DNF'd it about 100 pages in. I was really bored. Nothing was happening. The writing style didn't vibe with me. Just real boring. It is a standalone, so I was kind of sad because I wanted to love it. It sounded really cool with like the revenge of a god and all this other stuff, but it just wasn't for me. So I needed to stop taking up room on my shelves. And then we have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. I wanted to read more sci-fi. These are hyped sci-fi. I picked them up. Books with Emily Fox loves them, and I really, at the time when I bought these, she was pretty much the only booktube channel that I watched. Since then, I have really honed in on the fact that I do not like wholesome, and all I ever hear is that Becky Chambers is wholesome. I could really regret this because I am keeping To Be Taught If Fortunate because it's just so short that I decided to keep it. But I'm hoping I won't regret it because I hate wholesome. I literally hate wholesome, and all I ever hear is these are so wholesome. So I'm getting rid of them. You know? I don't need wholesome first contact with alien. I would like they're aliens that are going to murder us or aliens that are going to sleep with us. No in between. None of this. We can just be friends. Okay, this one I'm a little unsure about. So when I take the Unhaul to be unhauled, this might sneak out of the bag. Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. I gave this book a 4 stars, but I just don't think that I want to keep it. Like, there's just something in me that's like, this isn't worth keeping. I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series because this book just stood so well on its own. So I've decided I'm going to unhaul it, but I am very unsure because, like, I did really like this book, but then again, as I said, I only have one shelf. I need to be really picky, and I'm just feeling something in me tells me that this can go, and that's it. But I did really, really enjoy this book. And then we have The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. I read this month in March, and I gave it 2 stars. Not my type of book. It was on my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months. So it's self-destructing. Even I've read it, but it is destructing. I guess it's not self-destructing. I am destructing it. You can. This is very atmospheric. It is very whimsical. It's very retelling lore, mythology. Not my type of vibe, if you know me. I got this in a blind date with a book, and I decided to try it. I gave it 2 stars. It is interesting because my grandmother is from Israel, so her name actually shows up in this book, and that really I was not expecting that, and it does have some Jewish mythology in it, which was kind of cool, but not cool enough for me to keep it. Can go to someone who will love it. I'm sure the book that everyone expected to see on this list is The Bear the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This was another book on my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 months, and I am destructing this one too. I have read this one. I hated this one. I gave it a 3 stars, but it was like a gracious 3 stars. It was a 3 stars as like, I can understand why other people like it, but I still hate this book, and I would probably give it a 2 stars or a 1 star. Another atmospheric read, another one inspired by a lot of lore and mythology. Not my type of book. I don't like atmospheric reads. This is something I've really learned. I want more than that. So Vasya, although I did continue to the second one, can leave my house. The Bear and the Nightingale can destruct. Another one that is probably going to hurt a lot of souls out there is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I am keeping Six of Crows at this moment in time. I did really enjoy Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I didn't really like these. They're just very typical YA. Like, I still enjoyed them, still gave them 3 stars, but they weren't what Six of Crows was. And I'm not going to read these again. I don't really even like what they look like, so I don't need them on my shelves. And they can go bye-bye. That's all. This has a Costco sticker on it. We have, oh, and the price. We have The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Like a lot of people my age, I loved The Hunger Games growing up. I read the books. I loved them. I watched the movies. The movies are actually not too bad either. They're not great, but they're not, like, they're not the worst adaptation I've ever seen. I bought this, even though I was heavily disappointed that, you know, it was a President Snow prequel. And I forgot how much of a love story Hunger Games is, because this is also a love story, and I read it, and I was like, well, I guess Hunger Games really is too. But this was just not good. This is not the prequel we all wanted. This needs to leave my house. President Snow is not welcome here. Will I pick up another one if she writes it? Probably. Do I regret picking this one up? Absolutely. Does that change my mind? No. I have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I just own 2 copies of this book. I picked it up in a blind date with a book, not knowing it was Throne of Glass, and I already owned it. So I'm just releasing this copy into the world, because I don't need 2 copies of this book. A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Another book that I really, really, really loved, but I have no need for it to sit on my shelf. It is getting a new pubbed version, so I now think that maybe I should keep it because it is getting a new cover, and this will probably go for a lot of money being a self-pubbed version. But it's just one that I don't really need to sit on my shelf. I'm not going to reread it, although I loved it. It was beautiful. One of the only, I guess, atmospheric lyrical books that I did really, really like. It can find a new home to love it more than I did, even though I loved it. Another book that probably won't shock anyone who follows my channel is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I hated this book. I gave it 1 star. I gave this book literally 1 star. I thought it was so predictable, so basic. I thought the writing is so overhyped. Like, I don't understand why everyone loves Colleen Hoover. Her smut scenes were terrible. Her writing just wasn't that good. I felt like this book really suffered from trying to be a thriller book and a romance book, and then it never did either one right. So it can go, because I obviously don't have good thoughts about it. I don't need it. And then we have Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I read this for BookTube Bestie. I hated this book too. Jade made me read it because it was on her worst books of the year. And so for BookTube Bestie, I had to read it. I regret my life decisions sometimes. I regret BookTube Bestie sometimes because I read terrible books in it because I have to read people's worst books, hoping that I'll love them. But this was a fail. This was a flop. I hated this book. Not worth my time. Adios. And then we have Descender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. I read this graphic novel a really long time ago. It was okay. I'm not the hugest graphic novel fan, and this one just didn't interest me as much. I don't think I'm going to ever continue, so I think I should just unhaul it. And even if I do continue, I can just pick up the second. It's fine if I don't have the first volume, so I think I'm just going to unhaul it and make some room. I know this doesn't make a lot of room, but it still makes some room, and that's all that matters. Another couple books I'm very unsure about, I'm not sure I should unhaul, they've been sitting in this bag and I keep rethinking about it, is the Ember in the Ashes Quartet. I only own the first 3. I really, really enjoyed this trilogy, so I'm thinking about keeping it. I'm going to let you guys decide. Sound off down below for this one, because I really enjoyed this trilogy, but it is, I mean, I don't reread in general, so it is definitely a series I probably will never reread. It's YA, so I think I would hate it again if I reread it, because I have really steered clear from YA. But I do really love this, and I love the world in it, so I'm thinking about keeping it, and I really oddly like the way these books look, and I really like them on my shelf. But I also have already read the 4th one, and I don't know if I would ever spend my money to buy the 4th one. So then I'm just sitting here with an uncompleted set. So I was thinking I should just unhaul them, because if I'm never going to buy the 4th one, they're just going to sit, the 3 of them, on a shelf one day. So I'm very unsure, even though I really, really did like these. And so part of me does want to keep them, because I feel like I might regret it one day. But then also, will I? Will I really? I don't know. So sound off down below. I'm not going to count these in the tracker because I want to get your opinions of whether I should keep them or get rid of them because I'm most likely never going to have a full set. And that brings us to the end of the Unhaul. I have no idea how many books. I'm going to say 25 is my guess. From the pile below me. I think that's a decent amount. I technically still have the books from my last Unhaul on the channel sitting next to me. So hopefully these ones will leave the house quicker than those ones did. Oops. And if you made it this far into the video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say that you were here, you can leave me a shopping cart emoji because look at all the room I will have on my shelf to go shopping now. And if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my book Twitter, and my Goodreads are all linked down in the description bar below. I also do have a Patreon called Casti's Dragon Stables, and that is also linked down below if you would like to check it out. I appreciate every one of you, and I love you all, and thank you so much for spending time with me. Have yourselves a wonderful day.